Hey guys, welcome back to Purposeful Armament. Today we have an interesting video that is a little bit out of the norm for us. Typically you see sort of semi-serious, I would say, videos about all these cool modern toys. But today we are looking at some older firearms. Now me and Brandon, my associate here, we've been playing a game called Hunt Showdown. If you haven't checked out the game, you absolutely should. It's a great game, but we're nerdy gamer guys, so we have some LARP set up from that game. So the game is kind of set in 1895, right? Yeah, 1895. It's very old west, so you get a lot of lever guns, you get a lot of shotguns, you get a lot of bolt actions, you know, revolvers, those kind of things. So we have a spread here. You've probably seen the cinematic. We're gonna go through everything that I have set up here. I'm gonna start with my guns because they're not really super in style for either the time period or the game itself, but they kind of still fit the vibe. So I'm gonna just talk about them a little bit, and then we can move the torch on to Brandon, learn about his stuff, because Brandon, in case you couldn't tell, he went a little bit more intense on the LARP. And we're also going to talk about why this lever action is completely in shambles right now. All right, so the first gun that we have up, again, is not super of the period. This is actually a modern lever action, chambered in 30-30. This is the Henry model H009. That's how unoriginal the name is. So like I said, it is a modern sort of take on the lever action. It still holds, I think, a lot of the kind of looks, I would say, of the older time. To load this thing, it actually is through this. So there, you open the tube up, you put ammo in here, and then you drop it down, lock it in place, and it's good to go. I've owned this for quite a while. They're not super expensive guns to buy, but you know, they're pretty decent, I would say, for the money. So I've had it for a while. I don't shoot it a ton because 30-30 is relatively expensive, because a lot of the ammunition is kind of more centered for hunting, and there's kind of an upcharge for that in a way. Really the only modifications I did to this, and you'll see some of the older clips that we did when we first came out, I went ahead and added this leather wrap here to the bottom of the lever. It's very thin and it kind of blends in pretty well, but I added that because after a while, punching your hand out into metal kind of hurts a little bit. Is there anything really in game that this would be comparable to? I don't think, I mean, other than just generally a lever gun.
For capabilities, it's like the Centennial.
Okay, the Centennial.
The Winfield Centennial.
Yeah.
That's based off of the 1876 Winchester, though. That's what it's actually supposed to be.
Okay. And did those have side gates on them?
Yeah, the 1876 is literally this. It's a 73 upscaled. That's all.
Okay.
It is. It's
yeah.
very much the same gun. It has the top cover and everything.
Gotcha. So yeah, on this, since you load through the tube up here, there's no side gate on it, which kind of sucks. And if I had to go back and redo it, I would probably get one with a side gate on it because that just makes the loading so much easier. Not a super genuine recreation of anything really of the time, I would say, or, well, sort of the time in the fact that it's a lever gun, I guess, but not really anything comparable too much in game. The next thing that I have though is in game, although it's not really of the time period. Mosins existed, I guess, when the time of this game takes place. The Mosin, the M91 30,
which in game is a beast.
In game is absolutely insane. It's so good. It's the only gun that I use.
The difference is that this one it's a 9130 and it has the hex receiver.
Okay. Yeah.
In game, it's the regular 91, so it doesn't have it, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's the same gun.
Okay. Well then, yeah. This. Oh,
they also have turn bolts.
Sure. So this is. This is more of an accurate recreation of what would be, something in game. This gun is actually date stamped 1928. So this thing is pretty old, and the bolts is a little sticky. I haven't ran this thing in a very long time. I just had Brandon come out and run it because honestly, it kind of sucks. It's not really that fun to shoot. The bolt is sticky. It's hard to manipulate. It's just, I mean, this is a long boy. This is what, like a 28-inch barrel or something crazy, like 26-inch.
I think it's a 28-inch, and they're not fun.
Yeah. So it's got a lot of recoil. It's heavy. It's really annoying. They're cool in game to run around with for sure, but in real life, not exactly the best.
At the time game takes place, the Mosin was one of the best rifles you could get because it used modern smokeless powder, and it also had a 5-round internal magazine that could be loaded with stripper clips, so it was a pretty fast gun to shoot. But just by modern standards and by the standards of bolt actions that would come after the Mosin, it is not a very good bolt action rifle.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that I probably should mention. We're talking about two different things because the game takes place in 1895, and we're talking about it in terms of like modern day. So the Mosin sucks in modern day, but yeah, like you said, probably pretty sweet whenever it first came out. But
it also used Spitzer ammo. It was a pretty accurate rifle for the time also.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you were able to, I guess we weren't really shooting that far. I think in the clips, we didn't really get any footage of the actual targets, but I mean, you were getting hits pretty easily at like, I don't know, 50, 75 yards, which should be expected from a rifle like this shooting like a full-sized, full-power cartridge. They're kind of cool for the money. I mean, they're super cheap. They were even cheaper. They're starting to go up a little bit more now, but if you're gonna get a Mosin, I've heard that the Finnish Mosins are pretty sweet.
I've heard the Finnish Mosins are the exception to the Mosins being bad.
Yeah, this is a Russian Mosin, and I think if the bolt wasn't sticky, I think it'd be much better. So those are the two guns that I brought out today. We're gonna move on to Brandon's guns that he brought out because he definitely went a little bit harder on the LARP.
All right, so this is a Stoger Upland Coach 12 gauge. It's a side-by-side double-barreled shotgun. I bought it just yesterday. Actually, I saw it at the gun store. I was going to get $357 for the pistol and rifle, and I saw this, and it was only $440, and I was like, I should get that, because I always want a side-by-side. This gun is a lot of fun to shoot. It has double triggers, so let go of both barrels at the same time, and that's a lot of fun. The recoil is not too bad.
The recoil is a lot milder than I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was going to be really bad, but it wasn't that bad. It's a 20-inch barrel.
It's a 20-inch barrel. It looks a lot shorter to me. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. But in terms of in-game, what is there something specific in-game that this sort of matches up with? I don't really use shotguns in-game. I typically stick to like the Berthier or the Mosin, or even like the Labelle if I'm feeling frisky.
The closest gun to this in game would be the Caldwell 78. The difference is this gun has internal hammers, they're not exposed. The Caldwell 78 is actually based off of a shotgun made by Colt, and it has exposed hammers, one for each barrel, and you have to cock it each time. This gun cocks when you open it, and there's a safety that you have to break, and then you can pull the trigger.
And kind of an annoying part of this, I don't know if you were about to bring it up, but a really annoying part of this is every single time that you actually break the action open and I'm assuming whenever it cocks the hammers,
Yeah.
the safety comes back on. So you have to turn the safety off every single time that you load new rounds into the chamber, which is just, it's fine. It's not really that big of a deal, especially for what the gun is supposed to be. I wouldn't consider this something you would run drills with, but...
Yeah. It also, this is... because this gun, it's a cheap gun, but they try to keep it modern, that's why the safety's here, is to keep it safe. But it's a cheap gun, so it doesn't have an ejector. It does have extractors, but no ejector. This is also makes it kind of weird mesh of modern and old designs, because most modern shotguns will have ejectors, but older shotguns, like the Colt shotguns, they don't. They just have extractors, so you actually have to pull the shells out with your fingers to reload the gun. But the old guns had exposed hammers and no safety, so that's one of the differences. It also has a pretty fat foregrip, which is opposite of what a lot of older shotguns had. They actually had pretty narrow foregrips. It's a modern shotgun that's obviously stylized after older pattern shotguns. It's a lot of fun to shoot. I got it for really cheap. That's nice, and I thought it would be a good addition to the Cowboy Hunt Showdown setup.
It definitely feels like it's something out of Hunt Showdown for sure. One thing to note about the shotgun too, I think we've noticed it kind of as we've been shooting today, since it is brand new. The action is starting to get worn in. So it's at first it actually took quite a bit of force to break it apart, but now it's seeming to really break itself in, and I'd say it's in a pretty good spot now.
Yeah, it's a lot smoother.
Okay, you want to talk about your revolver real quick, and also I guess the holster and belt combo?
Yeah, so the Revolver is a clone of a Colt 1873 made by Uberti. It's in 357 Magnum, which is not an historically accurate cartridge, but I wanted something I could actually shoot regularly. So I got it in 357, and I can put 38s in this, and I can shoot it all day, and it's cheap. This gun is, in-game, is called the Caldwell Pax, and it shoots medium ammo, which is about as powerful as a 45 long Colt or a 357 would be in real life, and in-game, it's not a very good revolver. But it's a lot of fun to use. This revolver is completely based off the Colt, so it has no transfer bar and actually has a half cock. To load the gun, you have to put on half cock and eject your rounds and put a new one in for all 6 shots and then cock the gun. It also means, because it has no transfer bar, it's unsafe to carry with 6 rounds loaded in the chamber. So what I do is that I load 1 in the first chamber, then I skip 1 and I load 4 more. And when you get to that last chamber, when you cock the gun and rest the hammer down, it'll be on an empty chamber, and you can safely holster the gun, and you won't have to worry about getting shot.
Yeah, that's pretty important. You want to make sure to not get shot, so
exactly,
rest it on an empty chamber for sure. I don't think they do that in Hunt Showdown. They don't rest anything on an empty chamber, do they?
Nope. In Hunt Showdown, they make no regard for that. In Hunt Showdown, they also don't use ejector rods. The cartridges just fall out.
Oh, really? They just fall out? Yeah, the cartridges will not fall out. In fact, sometimes, even if you punch the ejector rod, the round, it'll come out, but it won't like fall completely out. You have to grab onto it and pull it. So it's a very slow reloading process, but I mean, obviously by modern standards, but it's not a modern gun. It's a revolver, you know?
Nope. And there are versions of this made by Uberti that do have transfer bars. I didn't get one because I wanted the gun to be as historical as possible.
Yeah.
So aside from the caliber, this is, by all means, is pretty much as historically accurate you could get of a revolver to the Colt without it being a Colt.
It's the sights on it.
The sights are bad.
Are not great.
It is a channel in the top of the frame and a fixed blade out front. They're non-adjustable, so if you want to adjust it, I know some people do adjust these by filing down the front sight, because this gun in particular shoots high, and I think that's the case for most of them. Just looking at it, you can tell that the front sight's taller than the channel. Overall, it's a pretty hard gun to shoot.
Yeah, it's definitely takes some practice for sure to. Yeah, we were at like 35 yards and we couldn't even hit like a man-size standard.
It was pretty
steel
hard.
target.
The gun was like not. In order to hit the target, we were like shooting at like a foot to the bottom right. That's where I shot to get my hit.
Yeah, I mean the trigger is pretty nice. Like the trigger's not bad.
It does have a nice trigger, but single action revolver. Its case hardening is really pretty, and this is actually historical. Most guns back then would have case hardened receivers, blued barrels, and blued cylinders, but everything else would be case hardened. One thing that is not historically accurate on this gun is the brass trigger guard. Colt never did that. That's just something Uberti does. Historically, it should have been made out of steel or iron. It even has the trigger is offset to one side. It's offset to the left, which is something that the Colts actually did.
So what about your belt and your holster setup there?
So this belt and holster was made for me by a dude in Kentucky called Red Dog Leather. He has a store on eBay, and he makes these holsters and some other models by hand, one by one, as they get ordered. I took measurements and I sent him my measurements and he sized it for me. He also made it specific to the gun, so it's not like a lot of other off-the-shelf gun belts where it doesn't fit the gun particularly perfect. It is made specifically for this gun, and it fits the gun absolutely perfectly. It's awesome. They're really well made. He has some nice stampings on the actual holster. He has a hammer strap, which I think for a holster you plan on actually wearing for more than like fast draw competition, I think you should always have a hammer strap. Double layers of I think it's Wicket and Craig English bridle leather, so it's really nice leather. And another thing that he did, which other manufacturers don't do, which I don't like, he actually stitched every single loop for the cartridge loop.
It is a very nice belt. I'm not super familiar with like cowboy sort of belt setups and things like that, but like just from looking at it, you can really tell that it's pretty nice. And it definitely does, I think, fit a lot of the look of the LARP that we're trying to go for. Like it looks like something you would see in Hunt Showdown. Maybe it's, it looks obviously like new and not like, beat in super hard, but
yeah, it still has a lot of breaking in to do.
Yeah, you can hear. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it on the microphone, but you can definitely hear it. It's still very it
still creaks.
Yeah, it creaks a lot. It's a very noisy belt until it really gets broken in for sure. So, is there anything else that you want to say about that before we move on to the redheaded stepchild?
It's very historically accurate. Like a lot of modern, especially the off the shelf belts, they aren't historically accurate and they have changes done to them. Like they won't be a straight cut belt, but like this belt's straight cut. It doesn't have a bend in it. A lot of times they have a bend in them for whatever reason to make the holster hang lower or whatever, but they didn't do that historically. The actual holster is historically accurate. It's not super low cut. It covers most of the gun except for the trigger, which is historically accurate for a regular holster at the time. And military holsters wouldn't be like this, but a civilian commercial holster, this is pretty much how they are made, and I appreciate the attention to detail in the design that the dude who made it put into it. Again, that was Red Dog Leather Custom.
I assume people who are going to look at this, other than like Hunt Showdown fans, would be fans of these kind of items anyways. All right, so let's wrap up the video with
the sadness.
The last gun that we brought out, which in my opinion, out of everything here, maybe I don't actually know if you would say the same, but this gun is, I think, my most favorite gun out of everything that we have here on the table.
Yeah.
And we did actually get to shoot it quite a bit today, probably, 75 rounds? 75, 100 rounds, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We shot it for a good deal today, so I don't want to speak too much for Brandon here, but we did try to shoot this video, 2 months ago? A month and a half ago, something like that. We tried to shoot this video a while ago, and we brought this out here, and we're using aluminum cased 38 Special Plus P, which I don't know why you do 38 Special Plus P. Whatever, just do 357 at that point. But whatever, it was Brandon's thing. He brought it. He bought the gun.
It was cheap.
Okay, it was cheap. So aluminum case, which now has been relegated to revolver use only because On the very first round, there was a case head separation in the gun, and a case got stuck in there. And long story short, after a gun exploding in a face of someone who's not me, but who is also sitting at this table, after we got that fixed, got that case out of there, we were using brass case. And why don't you tell us what happened today?
All right, so we shot and we got all the footage you guys saw, and it was about between 75 and 100 rounds out of this rifle. And
you might as well introduce the rifle too, like what, you know. Let's not just talk shit about it for the sake of talking shit about it.
The rifle is an Uberti 1873 lever action rifle. It is a clone of a Winchester 1873. This particular one is a clone of a Winchester 1873 Deluxe. It has a pistol grip. You can see it has more contour to it instead of being a straight stock. It has an octagonal barrel and case hardened receiver. The
case hardening on here, I just want to say this before you move on. The case hardening on here is like insane. It looks super cool.
It is. It's really pretty. The standard models have a straight wrist stock, a round barrel, and the whole gun is blued. The finish on the wood is not as nice. The checkering on the wood isn't as nice. Whoever owned this gun before me put this leather wrap on the stock and on the lever. I had a second case head separation today that looks like it happened in the same part of the chamber as the last one, which makes me think the problem is actually mostly with the gun. That happened in between 75 and 100 rounds. It didn't take a long time for it to happen.
And this is with brass case PMC bronze, right?
PMC bronze brass case 357 Magnum.
Yeah, so it's not by any means bad ammunition that went through it. I mean, maybe you could say one of the rounds was bad, but I doubt it. I think two similar malfunctions, catastrophic malfunctions, I would say. It would probably be the gun.
Another thing I appreciate about this gun is the markings on it, done by Uberti, are all about as historically accurate as possible. It does have their own manufacturer's name on the barrel markings, but they also do have the patent markings that Winchester put on these guns historically. They do have the model 1873 marked on the tang, which is historically accurate. That's how they would have done it. It actually has like the same font and everything. There are various fonts, but this is what it would have looked like. It has a sliding dust cover.
Because it's running a pistol caliber, 357 or like 38 special, the throw in the lever is pretty short, especially compared to this, which is in 30-30, which is a much more stout cartridge. I mean, this is how far the lever goes.
Yeah.
We can't really show you because this is in pieces right now, but it's what, probably like right there?
Yeah, it has way less.
I mean,
you can run this gun pretty fast. I feel like I was running it pretty fast. Not like competitive shooter level, but for someone who hasn't shot a lever action in years.
Yeah, and especially compared to this, like just the amount of time that it takes to just throw the lever all the way out there and get it back, it's not terrible, but this is definitely way faster. Big issue if you do have case head separation or any malfunction like that, I think maybe it's specific for this kind of design of the rifle. It is
mainly the lifter.
Yeah, it is an absolute pain in the ass to get rounds out of the magazine and make the guns like safe. I don't want to touch on it a whole lot, but whenever I had the out of battery discharge is because one round was sitting on the bolt face, and I don't even know how it gets in out of battery because
I think maybe I hit this thing. The hammer didn't go down. I didn't pull the trigger. I think maybe I hit this thing.
Yeah,
because this is the firing pin.
Then that would explain it.
I think that's probably what it was. It was terrifying though. Fortunately, I didn't get hurt. The in-game is just a basic trapper carbine. That would just be the round barrel, straight stock, no fancy wood or anything. It doesn't have a buckhorn sight in-game either. It has a different sight. When the hammer's down, you can't see the sights. That's how it is in-game too. It has a side gate. One thing that made this gun a big deal at the time was the inclusion of the side gate.
It makes it significantly easier to reload.
Yep.
They are pretty fun, and I think I actually do, whenever I use a lever gun in game, I actually do like use this one because it is that one that you get like right off the bat.
It has a really nice trigger on it.
Yeah, the trigger's phenomenal on it too. Okay, I think we're pretty much done here. These are kind of the guns of Hunt Showdown. I know that this is a big departure from our typical YouTube videos on this channel. But you know what? Sometimes owning guns and shooting guns is just supposed to be fun. And whenever you can play a video game and then go out into the real world and buy very similar versions of that and use them at a shooting range, regardless of if you're running drills or not, it's an absolute blast. And if you are a fan of the game and you want to buy something like this, make sure that if you're going to buy one of these, that you get one that's not busted. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that it was a well-liked deviation from our typical regularly scheduled programming, so to speak. And we'll try and do more videos, kind of this historical dive, maybe in the future, or base it off of games. We need like laser guns like in Starfield, I think, is the next.
I'm thinking Chiappa Rhino for the
Starfield. I'm thinking we might need to do some Starfield stuff. So thanks to Brandon for coming onto the channel and actually talking. I know you guys have probably seen him in some of our other content, but he doesn't really do a whole lot of time. Actually, no, we did the LWRC video.
Yeah.
I almost forgot about that. Well, here's Brandon again. Here's all of his cool cowboy stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the LARP, and I will catch you in the next one.